I'm here to talk about work in progress over with ACRO on the resident or the Practice Accreditation Resident Reviewer Program, or PARRP. Let's see if I can. There we go. Okay, so as many of you know, practicing in radiation oncology requires multiple skill sets. Some of these skill sets we acquire as a medical student, things like doing an H&P, doing the exam, learning in and outpatient management. When you become a resident physician in radiation oncology, you focus, gain more specific skills like in simulation and contouring, oncologic principles, and we just heard about teaching residents how to review radiation plans. And then by the time you're an attending physician, there's another whole set of skills that aren't necessarily taught to you as a resident. And that's things like daily imaging review, billing, and safety and quality improvement. So this project kind of focuses on one of these, which is safety and quality improvement. And so, safety and QI is something that's actually required. It's an ACGME core competency in radiation oncology training programs. Studies on this competency have found that people programs use different methods to do this. Some do didactic lectures, others do clinical projects, some do morbidity and mortality cases. But when residents were surveyed about whether they found their training in this aspect adequate, only 27% found it adequate. The majority didn't think that their training in safety and QI was adequate during residency. So given that, we hypothesized that a hands-on training in practice accreditation could potentially increase resident knowledge of quality care standards. So before we get into the program, we kind of have to define what practice accreditation is. This is not something that residents necessarily are involved in, though they actually do various aspects of it on a daily basis without maybe realizing it. So practice accreditation is a voluntary process where a radiation oncology facility undergoes external peer review of their treatment quality. Assessment of quality ranges on things like the personnel, the treatment records, their QI processes, and the assessments are performed by board-certified radiation oncologists and physicists. There's multiple programs that do practice accreditation, including ASTRO has the APEX program, there's an ACR program, but for this project, we partnered specifically with ACRO because ACRO's program has been around since 1995, and in response to the pandemic, the program is entirely virtual. And ACRO also has a strong history of mentorship programs with residents. So some basics about the PARRP program. In this program, residents will serve as junior reviewers. It's targeted more for upper level residents because you do need to know some, have some baseline knowledge of, the radiation oncology, treatment principles. Participants in the program would be mentored one-to-one by radiation oncology faculty, and both residents and faculty will review the same clinical documentation, or what we'll call charts. Both faculty and residents will score the charts independently, and then we'll have one-on-one meetings to compare their scores and talk and get some feedback. So the way that the charts are scored in the program is that both the residents and the faculty review specific documentations that are submitted by the treatment facilities. This includes the H&P, they're looking at the exam documented, the path reports, the staging, the treatment options described. They'll review the simulation documents, they'll review the treatment planning documents, including what technique was used, what contours were put, and what constraints were used. And then they'll also review treatment summary information and follow-up information. And then the charts are actually scored in a very structured way. So for every disease site that both a resident and a faculty will review charts for, there's very specific rubrics that they follow, and they give for every section a 5-point score. And for every area, if they're going to deduct points, they have to provide an explanation as to why they deducted points. So for this project, we're currently in the pilot phase. There's 3 parts to our pilot phase: an initiation component, the mentor chart review, and then completion. So the objectives of the pilot are to assess resident understanding of practice accreditation, quality care standards and documentation review, That's the primary objective. The secondary objectives are to look at the time it takes residents and faculty to complete chart review, and then assess resident confidence in chart review, and then also assess faculty perceptions of the residents. So during the initiation phase, the residents are going to have very specific readings that they do. There's going to be some instructional videos. They're going to have a session where they go over the scoring rubric with the medical director of the practice accreditation program. And then there's also a pre-pilot survey that they will fill out. And so these are some questions that are in the pre-pilot survey, asking residents, are they familiar with practice accreditation, and getting a baseline sense of what their confidence is in reviewing, planning documentation, treatment documentation, that sort of thing. During the mentor chart review, residents and faculty will each review the charts independently and then meet together to review their scores. And so on the right here, we've kind of listed out what one cycle of chart review entails. Essentially, just residents have 7 days to review the charts and complete the scoring form. They have about 2 weeks to schedule that one-on-one meeting, and then we have some kind of specific things we'd like them to outline during the meeting. And then they also have 7 days after the meeting to complete a survey. And then this kind of cycle will repeat. And so, like I said, there'll be a resident survey at the end of each cycle. This will focus on, how many charts did they look at? How long did it take them to go through individual charts? How did they feel after their meeting with their mentor? And whether or not residents feel confident at the end of that chart review cycle. And then again, faculty will also have surveys that they complete. Want to get a sense of how long does it take faculty to go over charts? And we also want to get faculty's sense of, do they, think that, this, resident is kind of ready to review charts independently. And so the project will be completed, or the pilot phase will be completed when residents have gone through at least 3 cycles of the mentor chart review process and reviewed 10 charts. And once it's completed, there will also be a post survey for the residents to complete. And again, the post survey will kind of gauge their sense of confidence after the program. So in conclusion, this program builds off of precedents we have for other things where residents serve as junior reviewers. For example, like in the ASCO journals, residents can serve as a junior reviewer. This program is an opportunity to, for residents to increase their knowledge of quality care standards. And it's also another way to gain some structured mentorship within radiation oncology. In terms of future directions, after we complete the pilot, we'll get a better sense of, how many charts and rounds of mentor chart review would be necessary for residents and faculty to feel confident. And then we'd like to open it nationally. And then the other kind of benefit we foresee in this process is that residents who complete this would be able to have an expedited pathway to becoming a faculty reviewer for the ACRO accreditation program. Okay, and with that, I'd like to conclude, thank ROECSG, ACRO, and the ACRO accreditation program, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.